Last week's stories on AI, we see AI continually shifting from a product story to a power story. The big headlines that we have seen, it's not just about smarter models in AI, it's now about control. Who gets the chip, who sets the rule, who can afford the build out, who gets to decide how far the systems go inside government, the workflow, and in society. Welcome back to the Business and AI podcast. This is your weekly roundup for March 8th through March 14th, 2026. And this week we are covering 8 big signals, all the way from Anthropic versus Pentagon, the US reversal on AI chip exports, Meta's very messy AI week. We go all the way to the EU drawing a sharper red line on AI harm, and the US Senate officially letting AI into the workflow. Let's just get right into it. Now, our first story. What happens when the government tries to regulate AI without passing a law? That's basically what the Anthropic versus Pentagon fight looks like. Anthropic sued the Pentagon after it was labeled a supply chain risk. Anthropic argues that the designation violates its free speech and due process rights. And this is why this story matters way beyond Anthropic. A Pentagon blacklist does not just hit one company. It can pressure contractors, it can pressure partners, agencies all across the chain. Reuters also reported that Microsoft filed an amicus brief backing Anthropic, arguing the designation could disrupt military suppliers and critical support for government missions. So here's the real question, which is way bigger than this one lawsuit. Are AI companies allowed to set ethical limits on their own tools once national security is involved, or does the government get the final say? And for business leaders, it's a warning that in AI, procurement rules can become policy faster than the legislation. One draft disappearing from Washington just changed the AI conversation worldwide. On March 13, the US Commerce Department withdrew a planned rule on AI chip exports. The draft would have replaced the Biden-era framework that divided countries into access tiers and instead would have tied exports more closely to bilateral deals, security assurances, and investment commitments. Now, this is why this matters. Because chips are still the bottleneck, if you control access to advanced compute, you influence who can train, who can scale, and who can compete in AI. So by pulling this rule back, it means that there is now more uncertainty about who has access to chips and who doesn't have access to chips. So this is the business takeaway. The AI race is not just about better models. It's also about who gets the infrastructure, on and under what political terms, and on whose timeline. I think it's becoming really funny that AI Roundup every other week is now more political than it should be. Meta had one of the most revealing AI weeks of any big tech company. First, it's unveiled the roadmap for 4 in-house chips under its Meta Training and Inference Accelerator programs. The first MTIA 300 is already powering ranking and recommendation systems, with more chips coming in this year and in 2027, including inference-focused designs. But then, the story just got the turnaround. Reuters reported that Meta pushed back the rollout of its new avocado model to at least May because it wasn't yet performing to the extent the company wanted. So 2 days later, Reuters also reported that Meta was discussing layoffs that could affect more than 20% of its staff as it tries to offset AI infrastructure costs and capitalize on AI-driven efficiency gains. Basically, what this roundup is saying is that Meta has spent so much resources on training AI that they now want to offset some of those expenses by letting about 20% of its staff go. That's basically what it's saying. So this means it's not just about chips, not just about model. There is also execution pressure. Meta is trying to build proprietary infrastructure to keep pace with frontier models and stuff like that, and also lower labor costs all at the same time. And now Nvidia. Nvidia is no longer just selling shovels. It's also increasingly funding the gold rush too. Thinking Machines Lab, founded by Mira Murati, struck a multi-year partnership with Nvidia that includes a significant investment and access to at least 1 gigawatt of Nvidia's upcoming Vera Rubin systems. Reuters reported that industry executives estimate that scale of compute could be worth around $50 billion. And in this same week, Nvidia also announced $2 billion investment in AI cloud company Nebius, which says it plans to deploy more than 5 gigawatts of Nvidia systems by the end of 2030. So I wonder if you see the pattern here. Nvidia is not just a chip company anymore. It's starting to look like a strategic allocator of AI capacity. And this matters because the company is helping supply the ecosystem, and it's also changing which players to scale inside of it. Now, talking about the real enterprise AI war. Microsoft announced its Frontier Suite and Wave 3 for Microsoft Pilot, emphasizing that Copilot is model diverse by design and bringing cloud-powered Copilot technology into Microsoft 365 Copilot. So basically, Microsoft is bringing in cloud-powered co-work technology. We talked about this in a few earlier episodes, where cloud introduced their co-work technology, right? Where the AI gets to do something in your system, not just answer questions. So Microsoft wants to bring this into the Copilots so that the Copilot starts to do stuff on your system. Likewise, Google announced new Gemini features across Doc, Sheets, Slides, Drive, including pulling context from files, emails, and the web for Google AI Ultra and Pro subscribers. So this is the one most practical business stories of this week. The question is no longer, can AI write something for me? Just like I said, the question now is, which ecosystem becomes the operating layer for knowledge work? The AI build-out is getting so expensive that even hyperscalers are leaning harder on debt markets. Reuters reported that Amazon targeted roughly $37 billion in a bond sale tied to AI infrastructure spending, and that the deal drew peak demand of about $126 billion. Oracle added another strong signal. The company said the AI data center boom could support growth through at least 2027. Performance obligations rose 325% year over year to $553 billion. And this matters because it changes how we talk about AI spending. This is not App Store economics. This is more like railroads, telecom, and energy infrastructure. There is massive capital and there is long payback windows and a lot of pressure to prove that demand is real. And now to the EU. The EU may now be moving towards one of the clearest AI red lines we have seen so far. The Reuters reported that EU government took the first formal step towards banning AI-generated child sexual abuse material through changes in the AI Act, which is great. The proposal still has to move through the EU Parliament and later negotiations, but the direction is clear. Regulators are starting to target concrete harms, not just vague AI risk languages. And there is a related signal from the US at the state level. Just before this week, New York advanced a proposal that would bar AI chatbots from impersonating lawyers, we talked about this last week, or other licensed professionals, and would let harmed users sue, even if the platform used disclosure language. That combination is so important. We may be entering a phase where AI regulation is less about broad principles and more about specific prohibited behavior, liability, and enforceable boundaries. For companies shipping AI tools, this is a very different compliance world, so they should watch out for this. So here's the quiet story that has become a very, very big one. Reuters reported that the Senate, the US Senate, have now approved the use of ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot for official work. So these tools are already integrated into the Senate platforms. So this matters because once institutions start using technology internally, the policy debate changes. AI stops being just something lawmakers, regulate from outside. It becomes something they use to summarize, draft, search, and move faster from within. And that raises a bigger question. Does institutional adoption make governments more informed about AI or more dependent on it before the guardrails are fully settled? Well, this is a story we are still watching. So here's the big picture this week. AI is becoming harder to separate into neat categories like product, policy, infrastructure, and society. They are all now becoming very intertwined because now it's just all of them at once. The Pentagon fight showed how AI ethics can collide with state power. The chip rule reversal showed how geopolitics still shapes access. Meta and Nvidia showed that compute strategy is now business strategy. Microsoft and Google showed that workplace AI is becoming a platform war. And the EU plus the Senate showed that institutions are no longer standing at the edge of this shift. They are stepping into it. This is your AI roundup for the week of March 8th to March 14, 2026. And if you liked this episode, do well to comment and subscribe, and I'll see you same time next week.